Sandpoint Council and the City of Sandpoint local option tax presentation portion. And this is going to go until 8:30. And we're going to start with LPOSD, Lake Pend Oreille School District. We have Gary. You know, Gary, I've always wanted to ask you.
Supager or Supager?
Supager. We have Gary Supager running against Jalen or Jalon. I'm not sure which. Jalen?
Yeah.
All right. Jalen Peters. Jalen is out of town right now, but he is participating via Zoom. And we're going to have opening statements. Starting alphabetically, we're going to start with you, Jalen. You have 2 minutes for an opening statement, please.
Right on. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I'm Jalen Peters, running for this position, LPOSD in Zone 2. And couple of things about me is I live in Coquilala. I got 3 kids, been married for a little over 20 years. And man, things are, I own my own business. My wife does as well. We're business owners here in the community. So, and we're thankful for the opportunity to be a part of this this campaign and be a part of the community. A few things that are really dear to my heart that I really want to focus on as a LPOSD board member is number one, just the family first idea, the family first model. I believe that schooling, education, and really any part of our lives starts in the home. And so one of my big goals is to really focus on inclusion and getting parents more involved in however we can, and not just with, after school, like bake sales and things like this, but actually getting them in the classroom more, not just volunteering, but being able to be in there and monitor the classroom, monitor and be aware of what's being taught. I know trust, we want to trust everybody, but trust is earned. And so I want to get parents more involved in the classroom and in extracurricular activities. I feel like also fiscal responsibility, everybody talks about it, but I feel like there's a lot of areas in LPOSD and their spending and things that they're maybe even accepting free money here and there, quote unquote free money, but it's all tax dollars. We know that. And it's not fiscally responsible to receive quote free money that we don't need. It's just not. And so there's a lot of areas I want to tackle and become more accountable to the taxpayers, which are most all of us, but be accountable to them. And I also have a big heart for the trade programs. I own my own construction business myself. And so I want to see a focus on the CTE programs, not just being funded, which I'm sure we could talk about at any point, but also just growing and the trades being more involved. So yeah, my time is up. Got the message. Vote for Jalen Peters.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to try to cue you participating at home whenever time is up. Next up, we have Gary Supager. 2 minutes, please.
Hi, I'm Gary Supager. I am the incumbent school trustee at LPOSD Zone 2. I've served on the board for 4 years. I think experience counts. I think I understand the curriculum, the state laws, the policies, the codes, and the fiscal issues relating to school districts in North Idaho. I've lived here for 29 years. I've been married to my wife for 31 years. We've raised 3 children in Coquilala, and they've all attended school district schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. So that gives me a total of 17 years of children in the school district. Before I was on the board, I served the school district in a number of ways. I was involved in all my children's activities and academics in the schools regularly with their teachers and their programs and their activities. I also have volunteered now. I'm in my 17th year of volunteering at Sagal School as the 5th and 6th grade math coach. I have my own program. Students come in two mornings a week, and we work on math skills and prepare for a competition in the spring. I've served on district level committees for facilities, for curriculum, for budgets. I was chair of a district level committee that addressed district and parent coordination. I'm all for parents participating in all levels of education. I serve because I love kids. I believe in kids, and I'm here to make sure that no one gets left behind. No matter if a kid is going to a 4-year school, a 2-year school, a vocational training, going on to the military, a religious mission, or directly into the workforce, I want them to have the tools to succeed.
Thank you, Gary. All right, and we're going to have a brief presentation. Is it Mayor Shelby Ronstadt is going to be presenting some information about the Sandpoint local option tax. Got 3 minutes available for this. And then we're going to roll into the council portion of opening statements. Go ahead, Shelby.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. So the local option tax is going to be on the ballot this November 2nd. This give you some context. This is following on the heels of the 2015 local option tax that funded War Memorial Field improvements. That tax expired. That was also a 1% sales tax. This would be the same. That tax expired at the end of last year. So this year we're proposing, it's proposed on the ballot November 2nd. This 1% local option tax would be a 7-year rather than a 5-year sunset. So we estimate that would raise about $13 million. And what that money would be used for would be investing in parks infrastructure. So we recently completed the Parks and Rec Master Plan. It's the city's most extensive master planning effort related to our parks and recreation facilities that we've ever undertaken. And three top priorities came out of that plan. One is investing in our city beach, our downtown waterfront, which is the Farman's Landing along Sand Creek in the backside of behind First Avenue there. And the third is the sports facility, the sports complex at Traverse Centennial Parks. So this money would go towards improving facilities at those 3 sites in accordance, in alignment with the Parks and Rec Master Plan that was approved by City Council this last year. And there would also be flexibility for council to use those funds to purchase land to add to our parks inventory, as well as obviously administering the tax and some of those costs that it takes just to administer the tax, collect the tax. So in addition to that, there would be $200,000 per year that would be set aside to invest in sidewalk improvements. So that would that's about I think it's 5 times or 7 times what we currently have in the budget for sidewalks. So it would be substantially expanding our capacity to build sidewalks. That would give us about 33 blocks of sidewalks per year, which currently we do about 7. So that's a little bit about what the tax would be used for. And another thing that I just want to address briefly is how important this tax is, because it allows all users to be able to contribute to those facilities that are so important for our quality of life. Our parks and open spaces are not just critical for quality of life enjoyment that we all appreciate parks and open space and the recreation programming that we have here at the City of Sandpoint, but it also does a lot to improve economic vitality, because businesses, entrepreneurs, and job creators are attracted to those assets, and that's why they come here. So for every dollar that is spent by locals in taxes, 15 cents come from locals, 85 cents come from tourists or people that do not reside in the city. So it's a huge leveraging opportunity for city residents to stretch their tax dollars much, much farther than we could otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, and now we have opening presentations for the Sandpoint City Council race, which is 8 people in the race. It's a big one this year. We're going to start out with a 1-minute opening statement. We're going to go alphabetical here, starting with Joel Aspiro, who is an incumbent.
Can you guys hear me? Thank you, everybody, for coming. My name is Joel Aspiro. My family, I come from a diverse background. My family comes from Mexico. We moved to Sandpoint when I was 8 years old in 1995 for a better quality of life, just like everybody else here. I've had a unique opportunity to help run my family's business since I was 17. I see many of you here that I see there quite often, so this isn't too uncomfortable for me. I've lived here since I was 8. I'm married to my beautiful bride for 10 years this year. We have 4 wonderful children, 3 daughters, one son. I play sports here. I've coached here. I'm involved in the community here. I've had many conversations with many of you guys here. I'm also already on city council. So I look forward to hopefully serving you guys for another 4 years. If any of you guys know me, you know where to find me, and please come and ask me any questions you want. Thank you.
Okay. And is Wayne Benner in the audience right now or at home? Wayne, are you? Did not hear Wayne.
I'm at home and I can, can you hear me?
There we go. Okay, Wayne. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't see you on the list there, but there you are. Okay, if you'd like to have 2 minutes for an opening statement, or I'm sorry, 1 minute for an opening statement, go whenever you're ready, Wayne.
Okay, well, thank you very much for hosting this whole program. I appreciate that. I'm Wayne Benner. I've resided in Bonner County since 1974. I've had 3 children grow up and go through all the school systems in our community here. 2 of which, actually all 3 of which worked for the City of Sandpoint for many years as lifeguards. I'm running for city council because I believe my background, my expertise, and my knowledge will help out the community. I've been a city council, or excuse me, a city administrator for 9 years. I've been a county commissioner for 6 years in Bonner County. And I've basically spent all my life in planning and environmental and engineering. So I hope that for the next few years, if you would elect me, I can help assist the city in moving forward with all their goals that they have on the tables right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate that. Next up for the Sandpoint City Council race is Arthur Beislein. You have a minute, Arthur.
I'm Arthur Beislein. I was born here in 1969, and I don't think that matters at all. I think anybody who chooses to live here is a local, and they should be treated as locals. I want to be on city council because I've been an attorney for 26 years, and council is a legislative and a judicial body. And I think that as attorneys, we have an obligation to give back because it's a pretty good gig being a lawyer. And I think I'd be good for the city to help it deal with maybe getting the railroad to think about some underpasses, the DOT to think about a different traffic flow. But my main goal would be to make sure I want to find out what everybody out there thinks is important to the city. And listen, and I will be, and I do plan on honoring this commitment to having office hours at my office here in town, at least twice a month for a couple hours a week. So city council meetings are not a good way to talk to the people. Thank you. Hopefully you vote for me on November 2nd.
Thank you very much. Next, we have John Darling, but John had a conflicting meeting tonight and was unable to participate. John is an incumbent on the Sandpoint City Council currently. So next, alphabetically, that would be Justin Dick, who is participating via Zoom. Justin, are you ready for a 1 minute opening statement?
Yeah, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Good deal. Thank you, Zach, Ben, Stephanie, and the library for putting this together. My name is Justin Dick. I'm the owner of Trinity at City Beach, also the co-owner of Jalapenos Mexican Restaurant, soon to open a third concept on 113 Main Street. My wife and I moved here in 2006. I attended Idaho State University on an athletic scholarship. We've got 2 children. My son, 13 years old, attends Sandpoint Middle School. My daughter is 9 and attends Washington Elementary School. I am a Sandpoint Rotarian of over 10 years. I also sit on the Visit Sandpoint Tourism Council, and I have the honor of being the president of the Bonner General Health Foundation Board. Shout out to our hometown hospital and all our healthcare workers working around the clock to keep our community safe. I want to serve this community dearly, as this community has supported my businesses, my family, and my employees. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Next up, alphabetically for the Sandpoint City Council rates is Fritz Moore. Fritz, you have 1 minute, please, opening statement.
Hello, my name is Fritz Moore. My experience is pretty vast and extensive, from big budget television and film production to nonprofit and small business ownership. I have a unique insight into leadership and building teams and project management. What I see is a government that is losing control of itself and encroaching on daily life continually, looking to deprive us of our liberty and become dependent on the state so that all we have left to do is to survive by just living and paying our taxes and paying our rent. Hardly the American dream. We do these things through things like sustainable development, public-private partnerships, and regionalization. The fact is that individual liberty must be preserved. If we do not preserve it, we will lose everything. I'm not red or blue, liberal or conservative. I'm just a man living with God-given inalienable rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next up for the Sandpoint City Council race is Luke Ament. Luke, you have 1 minute for opening statement.
Good evening. It's good to be here. And for all of the people that are listening at home, thank you for giving all of us the time. I'm Luke Ament. I am a 40-year resident of Bonner County. I'm a 23-year-old serving member in the Idaho Army National Guard, and I am a 15-year teacher. I currently teach American government at Bonners Ferry High School. I'm running for Sandpoint City Council because I love this town. In the 40 years that I've been associated with this community, I have moved all the way from one side of Lake Street to the other. Housing is a crisis in our town. Housing is not a right, but it is a necessity. Housing and the actions that happened with the University of Idaho property is what finally motivated me to run. And it's a privilege and a call to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. And finally, for the Sandpoint City Council race, Jason Welker, you have 1 minute opening statement.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. My name is Jason Welker. I share two things in common with Luke. I was a high school teacher myself, an economics teacher for 13 years. And it was also the University of Idaho development that motivated me to run for city council. I have been the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for over a year, and I've been a member of that commission for 2 years. In that role, we recommended that city council reject that subdivision. In fact, when it was not rejected, I was motivated to run, but that's beside the point. I'm the executive director of Ponderay Peddlers, Sandpoint's local trails organization and bicycle club. In that role, I organize youth camps and clinics to get local school children into the woods on bikes, and lots of trail building parties every Thursday and many Saturdays throughout the year. In addition, I'm the business administrator of Schweitzer Alpine Racing School, and I've called Sandpoint home for 17 years. For 13 of those, I was a part-time resident while teaching overseas. For the last 4.5, I've lived here full-time with my wife and my daughter, who is in 3rd grade at Washington Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was opening statements from the LPOSD Zone 2 trustees, a presentation on the local option tax for Sandpoint and the Sandpoint City Council race. We're going to swing right into the Q&A portion. We've got a lot of questions and not a lot of time, so we're going to try to lump these as best as we can and eliminate some redundancies. And we're going to go to the LPOSD race. Let's see, we started with Jalen, so we're going to start with you, Gary, on this one. We're going to give a minute for each question. And the first question is, how would you define critical race theory? Do you agree with this ideology? And do you believe there is any of this ideology in the curriculum being used in LPOSD? And you have 1 minute, Gary.
Critical race theory. I understand that people are concerned with this topic. We take parents' concerns very seriously at Lake Ponderay School District. There is no place in education or in our economy or in our government or laws for discrimination or racism in any form. In our school district, we teach equality and inclusion, and we practice it every day. CTR is not in our curriculum at Lake Ponderay School District. It never has been. It never will be as long as I'm on the board. It's abhorrent to everything that I believe in. Parents are always welcome in our schools and can speak with teachers and staff if they have any concerns with CTR or any part of our curriculum.
Thank you, Gary. Jalen, would you like me to repeat the question? Are you ready to go?
No, I'm good.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
All right. Critical race theory, or CRT, is a Marxist ideology. Its whole goal is to claim that America was founded on racist ideals, and so everything really that we stand for and our rule of law should be thrown out or retooled, abolished, however you want to say it. And I don't agree with that. It brings down it brings disunity amongst all of us, and I don't agree with it. It shouldn't have a place in America in any way, or school districts, or LPOSD. I disagree with my opponent in the fact that I do believe, and I have verification, that critical race theory is in the classroom in our school districts. And the Idaho State Board Association is using different tactics. They're using what's called SEL, social emotional learning, and DIE, which is diversity, inclusion, and equity, not equality. They're using those two tactics to bring critical race theory in through the back door, while we're all at the front worried about critical race theory. It's sneaking in through the back door. So I'd encourage all of you to check out those two things, SEL and DIE.
Thank you, Jalen. Okay, next question is going to be directed to the local option tax. Shelby, did you want to field that one? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll have a minute response for this. So if the city has tax money for sidewalks, will that grant relief for homeowners who are now required to build, quote, sidewalks to nowhere, end quote?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? No.
If the city has tax money for sidewalks, will that grant relief for homeowners who are now required to build, quote, sidewalks to nowhere, end quote?
Potentially. So the way this works is the funding for sidewalks would be dedicated to those priority networks that have been identified through our master planning efforts. And I could show you where those are, but we have, through the master planning process, we develop prioritized networks, which ideally enables students, elderly people in neighborhoods to have easy access to parks, library, downtown, those critical, assets that we have in our community, without ever having to go more than a couple blocks, say, from your home to have that direct route. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much. And the next question is actually directed to the City Council. You're off the hook. Let's see. So we're going to start backwards alphabetically. So Jason, you'll be up first here. 1 minute response, please. Can you think of any alternative options to fund park and sidewalk improvements rather than an additional sales tax? And do you favor the local option tax?
Good question. Well, the local option tax, as I understand, is just the beginning. The parks master plan, as it was adopted, is estimated to cost up to $50 million. And as you heard the mayor say, this tax is expected to raise no more than 13 million. So the plan already is to leverage those funds to seek federal, state grants, which is where the big money is. As far as I understand, if we don't get the tax, we're going to move forward with the parks plan anyway. Do I favor the tax? I only have 1 minute. So I will say that I personally plan to vote for the tax. If I had been on city council, I would have advocated for a larger share of that to go towards non-parks infrastructure, such as improving streets in our town, and potentially taking a good portion of that to put towards workforce housing incentives so that developers who come here have more reason to provide housing for our local workforce. That's a big priority in town that I intend to focus on as a city council person. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, microphone number 2. Next up, we'll have Luke Ahmet. Luke, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, thank you.
Okay, and 1 minute, please.
There are a limited number of ways that cities can generate revenue, but everything that a city does requires revenue. Parks are expensive. Parks are important. Roofs are more important to me. In regards to the local option tax, yes, I support the local option tax as a vehicle to be able to provide services to the city. I am opposed to the way that this local option tax is written because it prioritizes parks over people. And speaking as a candidate, when I look at businesses that can't stay open, or I look at all of the help wanted signs in our town, it's easy for me to decide where my priorities are. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Next up, we have Fritz Moore. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good, thank you.
1 minute, please.
I am not in favor of the local option tax. This is how it works. We tax you here so that we can get government grant money that comes with conditions. None of these projects will be able to be finished without that grant money. Know that. Every person in this city will be taxed on every single purchase, including your food, which is abhorrent. It is not 1%. It is 16.67% increase in taxation on all sales in the city. That's a big increase for people who can't even afford to buy a home, all right? So you want to do something to fix this problem? We need to diversify this economy so that we're not slaves to a service system which is destined to fail and only provide for a few. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have Justin Dick. Justin, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Thank you. I'm a huge proponent of the 1% local option tax as it's written right now. I think our parks are some of our greatest assets that we have in the city, and I also think that they afford many of our locals and our new residents an affordable alternative to get out and to use these parks more than just 3 to 4 months out of the year. I think they've been a great benefit as they are right now, but we do have Travers is built on a landfill. We can turn that into a sports complex. We can extend the skate park right now. And like I said, I do feel that it's written the right way. I feel there's other ways that we can incentivize developers for more affordable housing right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Arthur Wexler? Want to repeat the question?
No, I got it.
1 minute, please.
I think the tax kind of demonstrates one of my strong suits. I was against it at first, and I learned about it from Justin and from Jason, and now I'm for it. 15 cents of every dollar comes from Sandpoint, the rest comes from everybody else. The county residents that use our beautiful beach all the time, so I'm for it. But I also think I go to the dump and I get run out of there if I don't have my sticker. So why can't we have that for county residents too? If they want to use our park, they can pay. They paid to build the house and they can pay to maintain it. And real quick on the sidewalk deal, if you don't want to build a sidewalk, give me a call. I'll take care of that for free for you.
Okay, and
Yes.
Can I get 30 seconds?
yeah, 30-second rebuttal.
You can take mine. I'm going to be like 2 seconds.
Just 30 seconds. Just so we know, $12 million is the estimate that they're going to raise. Reminder that everybody in Sandpoint will be paying approximately $3 million of that out of your pocket right now. Food prices are 15% higher over the last year. Gas prices are up by how much? 50%. Natural gas prices. You're talking about squeezing the very people you're trying to help.
When there's a rebuttal, we'll give the original speaker a chance to speak again for 30 seconds if you'd like to answer to that point.
I'm not quite sure on the math there, so I really can't respond to that. It seems pretty straightforward. Something costs X to build, you raise X amount of money, you build it. So I don't know how to respond to that.
Thank you very much. Wayne?
Excuse me, I'm on the ballot.
Yeah, Wayne, you're up next for the question, and you have a minute. Would you like me to repeat the question for you, sir?
No, thank you. I can answer that.
Okay.
I'm in favor of the tax. I'm not sure that if I was on city council, I would have pushed so hard for sidewalks, but I think parks are part of the city's asset to help develop the community in a very environmentally friendly way and also provide open space. And it can be used as an asset for developers to say, we have the open space for you when you develop. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wayne. And finally, we have Joel. Joel, would you like me to repeat the question?
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
Being on city council, I did vote yes to approve this. I think it's important to understand we had a shovel-ready project with our master plan. I also, it's a vote that goes to the people. So I thought it'd be fair for the citizens to decide if they wanted it or not, and do their due diligence of researching. I think it's a great opportunity. I also understand that the negatives on it, but I think that's up to you guys to decide if you want it and do your research. We're doing the best we can to present you with information. But we appreciate you participating today, and we'd love to see you guys just like this in city council chambers, first and third Wednesday of every month, 5:30.
Thank you, Joel. And we're going to throw the same question up to Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to answer that one. I'm not going to, since you're I'm not going to ask if you favor the LOT or not, because I don't want to electioneer anything. I just want to have you answer the question. Can you think of any alternative options to fund park and sidewalk improvements rather than the additional sales tax? 1 minute, please.
No, this is really the best tool that the city has, is to be able to levy a local option tax. And there are other tools. I know that it's a big priority for members up here as well as current council members and myself to be able to provide alternatives for workforce housing, which is clearly a top priority for our community. And there are other mechanisms to be able to create funding and promote, encourage the kind of development that would serve our workforce. So we are looking into those through the task force, the Workforce Housing Task Force over the last couple of months. And I'll be bringing forward through that task force solutions to the council soon for consideration. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is going to be for the LPOSD Zone 2 trustees race. We're going to start with Jalen. If you're ready, Jalen.
Yes.
This is a 1 minute response. Do you believe there's any physiological or psychological risk involved with wearing a mask for long periods of time, especially for children? And do you support masks and/or vaccine mandates at any time for any reason? 1 minute, please.
All right, so it's a yes and a no. Yeah, I do believe that there are physiological, mental issues that go along with it. It's been proven. You can look at the statistics. Suicides up across the board this last couple of years with all these mandates, unconstitutional things that are being pushed down our throats, and people having to comply to keep their jobs and things like that. So I believe it's very huge. I mean, there's videos online going out right now with students coming home from school and their parents, their mom telling this boy that, hey, we won a lawsuit and you don't have to wear a mask anymore. And he breaks down crying because he's so pleased. And so it's very obvious to me that there is, and we can go down a long list. I only have a minute. Second thing is I'm against mandates in any way. They're unconstitutional. They go against personal liberties. I'm pro personal liberties and for people's right to choose. Unlike my opponent, he feels like they may be necessary in extreme circumstances. So really the question would be, what would be the quote extreme circumstances that he would say, yes, I will take your personal liberties from your children.
Thank you very much. Very good. Next up, please. So I don't mind a little applause, but we got to get through a lot of questions here. So if you want to applaud real quick and we can get on, I appreciate that. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I got it. I got it.
1 minute, please.
Masks and vaccines. Okay, currently LPOSD does not require masks, and we do not require vaccines. We believe that our employees and our students are making personal choices, for the benefit of themselves. We believe that they're consulting their healthcare providers and making the best choices for themselves. During the last school year, we were the only school district north of the Salmon River that went from the beginning of the school year to the end with the same plan that we started with. Our kids went to school 5 days a week, without, mandates. Actually, we did have masks for 3/4 of the year. We relieved it about after spring break, but our kids went to school 5 days a week with our protocol plan. Our priority is always with the kids. We want to keep them safe and in school, and I believe we can do both. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. That wraps up that question. Now we're going on to the Sandpoint City Council. Here's a question, and we're going to start with Justin Dick. You'll be up first here, Justin. 1 minute response, please. How do you plan to ensure we maintain a sufficient amount of affordable housing as we continue to grow? 1 minute, please, Justin.
Thank you. That's a great question. I think in the interim, and a little bit of historical context, back in 2008, when we were doing the original comp plan here, one of the #1 surveyed responses from the community was affordable housing. Between 2009 and 2012, during the economic downturn, everything was affordable, but we had no jobs. So we got to understand that there's a trade-off. We're dealing with supply and demand right now. I spoke with a custom home builder a couple of days ago. To build a 2,500 square foot house right now, from the dirt to the permits and everything done, they're anywhere from $350,000 to $400,000 in terms of cost. I think in the interim, we need to work with private individuals that have rentals that would open those pools to our local workforce, as well as developers that would potentially take lower money or would open up for developing houses that are much more affordable. I think in the long term, there's some low-hanging fruit in terms of tax exemptions, ADU planning, ordinance revisions, public-private partnerships, and deed restrictions. I just think we need to realize that this is a long-term issue that we're going to deal with, and there's always going to be a trade-off. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Fritz Moore. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yep.
Okay. 1 minute, please.
Affordable housing is a misnomer. There is no way these developers are going to be able to keep up with the supply and demand, and all of those things being built will be priced right out of everyone's range. So anyone focused on wealth gap and community wealth problems will look at things like developing hard skills for working people. We will work on things like crowd-funded community investment. What I'm talking about is diversifying the economy so that we have economic prosperity now for people and in posterity, which means in the future for your children. Right now, we are a service-only economy, and we are only serving those who can afford to come here and participate, and squeezing out everyone else through things like taxation. Diversification of the economy will solve the housing problem long before giving special conditions and public-private partnerships to developers.
Thank you. Luke, you're going to be next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, 1 minute, please.
There are a number of agencies that are working to address our housing crisis. A housing agency is either a state or a federal solution. I believe that we should advocate a local solution for local challenges. And the way to address that is by putting it to the will of the voters. If you go to our city website, you are going to see jobs listed. Those jobs are important, such as water treatment operator. The wages that they pay are not going to have someone who can live in this town, or Pend Oreille, or Dover. We are either going to be taxed so that we can pay a wage high enough that people can afford to live here, or as is the trend right now, people will vote with their feet and our workforce will continue to shrink. So I advocate for a local housing authority, which the city council has the authority to create. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Next up, we have Jason Welker. Would you like me to repeat? You good?
I think I got it.
1 minute, please.
Yeah, we've heard some interesting perspectives. I've heard Justin say that the solution to our affordable housing crisis is to wait for the next housing market collapse when home prices fall again. I've heard the argument that we need to diversify our economy. I'd like to point out that we have an incredibly diverse economy for a town our size, with some manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing, lower-tech manufacturing, and as we all know, services. The problem is the supply. We have plenty of demand in this economy. We need development that works towards providing housing for the people who work here. The city council, the mayor, does have the authority to direct developers through things like development agreements, through incentives and relief for infrastructure investments that go into workforce housing. There are plenty of tools. They were presented, weren't presented. There was a report developed in 2019 called the Housing Assessment Survey. It contained pages and pages and pages of recommendations that city council could act on right now. We need to move forward with that and come up with some real solutions to incentivize development of workforce housing. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joel, you're up. You have a rebuttal? Get 30 seconds.
Please.
Sustainable development is actually a reauthorship of master community plans like the comprehensive plan and abuses localities with manipulative visioning and consensus to create appearance of public approval, all to acquire millions of dollars in grants with dubious conditions and utilizing tools like the Lot 1% tax. It is then funneled into PPPs, which provide lucrative contracts and create monopolies in the market.
Okay, go ahead, Jason.
Thanks. I'd like to know where you copied and pasted that from, but sustainable development in my definition means that my daughter will be able to live here. That wasn't a personal attack.
Don't talk
It sounded like you copied and pasted that. So I just like to say sustainable development means my daughter will be able to live here in 15 or 20 years. She's currently 9 years old. And the path we're going, there's absolutely no chance she'll be able to afford to do that. That requires solutions today so that in 15 years, the kids in this room are able to live in this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, when you have the microphone, we all respect your right to speak. When you don't, we all respect your right to stay silent. So next up, we have Joel. 1 minute. Would you like me to repeat the question? Okay.
Yeah, so this issue, ever since I've gotten into politics, I'm 34 years old. I've been in politics started attending council meetings since I was 20, and I've always heard there's this issue with housing. Mr. Banner spoke, or Wayne, sorry, I don't know your last name. He spoke last time that he's been here since 74, and it's the same thing since then. So to say, I haven't heard a solution yet. I've heard we have this problem, we can do this, possibly this. We have no idea what to do. I'm not going to pretend to give you an answer like I know what to do. I do know we have a task force. I do know that we're unfortunately plagued with a pandemic that set us aside with a comprehensive plan. I look forward to engaging with the community and figure out what their needs actually are, what affordably actually is. I still have no idea because nobody really does. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Wayne Benner.
All right, it's just a silly question.
Wayne Benner, are you ready, Wayne? Can you hear me there? Unmute your microphone, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, and you have 1 minute. Would you like me to repeat?
No, I understand the question. And this is a very tough question because I have a lot of respect for the comments made by several of the other council candidates. It's one that you can't address and solve overnight. I've been through the process. I understand what the dilemma is for trying to find low-income housing. And does low-income housing really solve your issue? Or does affordable housing or does workforce housing? I think we need to address it all and take a hard look at where we really want to go. I really respect everybody's comments about the different options that are available. And I think we need to take a look at all of them because you put them all together and I think we'll find a solution that can solve the concerns of Sandpoint into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. And finally, same question, Arthur. Would you like me to repeat or you good?
No, I got it.
And 1 minute, please.
I hear workforce housing and affordable housing. Workforce housing is a very specific thing. If you want to know what that is, Google it up, go check out what they do up in Banff, how they put all those people to work in there. It's really neat. Affordable housing is a loaded term. I'm all for it as long as you're not messing with the market. If the market is allowed to do what it's going to do, fine. If the taxpayers want to subsidize people so they can live here when they can't afford to live here, then I'm fine with that too. But as long as you don't interfere with market forces, every time rent controls, these things do not work. Affordable housing really should be rephrased as make sure everybody has a roof over their head. It doesn't need to be in Sandpoint city limits. You know, I can't have an apartment in San Francisco because I can't afford it. That's just the way it is. The market has to control.
Thank you, Arthur. That concludes that question. This one is directed toward Mayor Ronstadt. The 1% tax will go toward building out the conceptual plans for City Beach, Traverse Park, and Sand Creek waterfront. What if I don't like aspects of those plans? 1 minute, please.
Yeah, so the plans right now as they've been proposed in the Parks and Rec master plan, they're just conceptual plans. So it's a very rough draft, if you will. Once the project gets ready for development, once it's funded and it's what we call, to get it, what we call shovel ready, it will go through a much more robust process of revision. And there will be a public comment and public input process associated with that. There will be opportunity for the public to weigh in through either workshops and or city council meetings, et cetera. So that's an iterative process that happens over time, and it's project specific. So if we take City Beach, for example, which came out as the top priority when we put it out to the voters to see what their where they wanted to see their dollars invested first. We would take City Beach and we would take that through engineering and in a design process, much as we did initially, but it would be much more with a fine pointed pen. And we would give the public the opportunity to weigh in and criticize any elements of the plan that they want to see changed or amended.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. And next up, we have a question for the LPOSD race. I believe we started with Jalen last time. So Gary, this one goes to you, or did we start with you last time? Okay, Jalen, you're up next on this one. I started with Jalen.
Yeah, you started with me.
Okay. Gary, you're going to be up first on this one. How do you plan to attract and retain good teachers as our district grows? And you have 1 minute, please.
We've been very fortunate. All of our teaching positions have been filled. One of our goals in our district is to recruit, train, retain quality teachers. You know, in order to do this, we have to support them. We have to provide the resources for them to succeed, and we have to pay them fairly. So far, we've been very fortunate. We've been able to attract great teachers, and we've been able to retain them. We anticipate that this is going to be a problem going into the future because of the inflation in the cost of housing in Sandpoint. You know, our wages have not risen, at least in the last year and a half, with the price of housing. So we're going to have to find a solution to this. It all comes down to, you know, supporting teachers, giving them the resources they need to succeed in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. And Jalen, the same question to you. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, that's good.
1 minute, please.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I would say, first off, it's a financial issue. And like I've talked about before, I think assessing a lot of areas that we could cut things or maybe programs or things that are unnecessary in the budget so that we have a surplus with income we already have. And then we could pay substitutes or even, you know, full-time teachers to a greater degree. I also am a supporter of incentivizing. I think if teachers knew that they did a good job and their students are scoring well and things like that, where we could maybe figure out a way to assess how they're doing and we pay them accordingly, not just because of their degrees that they maybe have or don't have, but also incentivizing them with the level of accomplishments in the classroom from their students and really incentivizing them to do well. And I think teachers, man, they would say, yeah, if I do well and my students are doing well, I'm going to get paid more and they're going to want to perform to a greater level. So.
Thank you, Jalen. Thank you, Jalen. We had a request for rebuttal from Gary. So Gary, you have 30 seconds, please. And then Jalen, you'll have an additional 30 after.
Mr. Peters is talking about reallocating resources, you know, taking monies from one program or another and reallocating to another. You know, I would like to hear from him what he proposes in our budget to keep. You know, I've heard that he's talking about cutting out kindergarten or that he's talking about cutting out our hot lunch program. I would like to know more specifically about what he wants to cut and how he wants to reallocate these resources.
Okay, Jalen, 30 seconds, please.
Yeah, well, those are two areas. Yeah, my opponent is accurate in that assessment. I think those are two major areas to look at and assess. To what degree to cut those, I don't know without getting into the nitty gritty. I know that the grant for the meal program is free money from the government. I've already addressed that, but I'm wanting to research what type of, are there things that we're paying, the lunch providers, the people, workers, the employees that are distributing this, or the utilities it takes to keep the food cool, or whatever that might be. Is all of that included in the grant or not? So those could be things to be cut.
Thank you very much. You can bring something up later. We only allow one rebuttal. Okay, moving on to the council. There we go. Okay, we're going to start with Luke on this next one. What are your ideas for improving our road maintenance plan to prevent streets from reaching a state as bad as Cedar west of Division? And you have a minute, please.
No problem, Ben. Thank you. Shovel ready. This goes back to my prior comment. This takes resources. Anybody that thinks that we are going to fix our roads and maintain our roads and plow our roads, please call me. Send me an email or send up smoke signals. It is going to take resources to be able to maintain our services. This is part of residing in a community. This is part of being in a civilized country. As someone who spent 3 years of my life in places where it's not, I am willing to raise my hand, as I have before, to do what's necessary so we can keep our roads paved, plowed, and safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. And Jason, you're up next, please.
It's funny that you should mention Cedar Street west of Division, because I wrote about a 5-paragraph response to a question on my Facebook page today from a resident who lives on Willow, just west of Division there off of Cedar. In the last 2 or 3 years, there have been about 66 new residences either approved and built or in the final stages towards development west of Division along Cedar. The fact that we haven't made a commitment to improve that particular stretch of road at this point is a real shame, in my opinion. And there are funds available for that. They're called development impact fees. Every time a subdivision is built in Sandpoint or a new apartment building, the developer pays quite a large amount of money into the city. A portion of that is dedicated towards streets and infrastructure. So when we see something like 66 new homes going in within 2 blocks of each other, in the span of a couple of years, we should be immediately planning for improvements to the streets that serve that part of town. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Joel, you're up next. Need the question?
Yeah.
What are your ideas for improving our road maintenance plan to prevent streets from reaching a state as bad as Cedar west of Division? You have a minute, please.
Good question. One thing about being on city council for the past 4 years, I could say a lot of things right now, but one thing I can tell you is that we have a great council, we have a great staff, we're working on that very issue right now. So again, I would invite you to come to the council meetings and see how we do it there. And I'm trusting staff and mayor and council that we are working on that as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Wayne Benner, you're next on this. Do you need me to repeat the question, sir?
No, sir, I don't. Having just been on a program with Luke, I have to agree with Luke, and I also have to agree with Jason on the issue of addressing the roads. We have to take a look at them, get them prioritized, which we can do through the planning and zoning as well as through the road program. But developers should be helping to pay their share of making improvements when they increase the density or transportation issues on our roads. So yes, I agree with both of those people and I support that whole program. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wayne. Arthur, you're up next. Do you need the question again?
No.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
If I got the job, I'd probably go see the road guys and the people that are currently on city staff and see what the problem is. I mean, I drive up and down 4th Street, South 4th, probably 8 times a day. And I'm surprised I haven't blown a tire yet. And that's a street in South Sandpoint. And so they're like it that bad everywhere. Another question would be, how come we don't understand how compaction works? We have all these inverted speed bumps all over our town. When they do a sewer pipe, they don't compact it, right? They put down the blacktop and it sinks. Well, you need to call the homeowner and say, you fix it or we're gonna send you the bill. But I don't know, I'd talk to everybody who's been involved and see what the problem is. So that'd be it.
Okay, thank you very much. Justin? You need me to repeat the question for you?
No, that's fine. Thank you. With the road, especially in South Sandpoint, what we're doing right now with the redo of the sewer laterals here and the wastewater study, we're definitely seeing that and feeling those impacts on our roads down here. We do have a wonderful city and a wonderful city staff that I think recognize these issues. The city has also been very successful at securing grants for improvement and leveraging those grant funds. And I think we will rely on that if I were to be elected to start maintaining these roads a little bit better.
Okay, thank you, Justin. And finally, we have Fritz Moore. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Nope.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
Well, we just keep going back to the same thing. You want to raise money, diversify the economy so that there's more money in the system. Grants are a bad idea because grants come with caveats and conditions, and we, the taxpayer, bear the load while the private company gets all the benefits. So my thing to do would be to address any governmental waste in spending. Because when a corporation is partnered with the government, they're allowed to take the millions of dollars that are funneled through that government into their pockets, but we, the people, are not allowed to audit their financial records. So they can say, oh, all the money went to build Memorial Field. Without being able to audit their records, we have no idea how that money was spent, whether it was wasted on anything, whether anything was approved that shouldn't have been, because there is no access to those files. So we want to fix our streets, diversify this economy, make things more transparent, and you'll get more trust out of the community.
Thank you, Fritz. And we have a rebuttal from Luke, please. You have 30 seconds.
Just a comment. Every year as required by Idaho law, our city is audited. Our city's website is fantastic. How do I know that? Because I've been spending a lot of time looking at other cities' websites. If you don't believe me, look for yourself. Our audit, which is required by law, is passed. We comply with the law. It's simple. Follow the law, and we do. Thank you.
Extra 30 seconds.
Public-private partnerships funnel the money into a private system that cannot be audited by the government or by you. It's done through crony capitalism, tax breaks, subsidies, and many other things, all right? So again, it's not that the city isn't audited, it's the companies that they're partnering with are not able to be audited. Clear?
All right. Done with that question. Moving on to the school board race. We are starting with Jalen this time. Okay, if tax funding streams in LPOSD are decreased, rural schools will close, teacher salaries would be cut, and CTE and after-school programs could be cut. What would you choose and why? And you have a minute for this, please.
I'm not sure that I understand the question. What would I choose to cut?
Let me read it again. Restart the clock. If tax funding streams in LPOSD are decreased, rural schools will close, teacher salaries would be cut, and CTE and after-school programs could be cut. What would you choose to cut and why?
Okay, well, that's a very large assumption that all of those things would close. Not sure where this person asking the question got their facts. I think that if we were to change the way the income comes in through the levy or other ways, I think that we'd have to tighten our belt, and we'd have to maybe look at waste or look at things that we maybe can lose so that we could keep the crucial things going and even fund the CTE program to its fullest. I think that there's a lot of things that we can do with volunteers or even teachers that maybe aren't certified, working under a certified teacher for the CTE program. I'm looking at that even with talking to some people in Boise with that. So there are options. It's a huge assumption to say that, well, if we cut this funding or taxes go down, tax funding goes down, then all these things will go away. That's just not true. And I don't want that to happen. Even the kindergarten thing was alluded to. I just think that needs to be addressed, not cut. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Gary, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay, if tax funding streams and LPOSD are decreased, rural schools will close, teacher salaries would be cut, and CTE and after-school programs could be cut. What would you choose to cut and why?
I think what the questioner is alluding here to is our levy, the tax streams from the local property taxes. Okay, local property taxes are the only revenue source that school districts are given to supplement their programs in Idaho. We can't do local options taxes like the city. We can't do income taxes. We can't put taxes on license plates or fishing licenses. Unfortunately, the local property tax is the only tool we have. I don't like it, but it's the only one we've got. Okay, if we were to lose this income stream from the local property tax, which is $12.7 million for us, outlying elementary schools would definitely close. We would lose Northside, we would lose Southside, we would lose Hope. All of our activities, all of our sports, our academic competition teams, our dance, our cheerleading, we'd also lose. We would also lose probably 90% of our electives in our high school. This includes our entire CTE program, our arts program, our fine arts program, band, music, theater. All these things would be lost without this income stream. It would be a tragedy.
Thank you very much. Okay, done with that question, and we're moving on. This is a two-part question. One part goes to the incumbents, and we only have one here today, so that means you, Joel. And the other one is for the non-incumbents. So we'll start with Joel. What issues/items have you placed on council agenda, and what was the outcome? And you have a minute for that, please.
You should have placed on?
Yeah.
Right. None. However, worked as a team, got a lot done, getting a lot done. That's all I gotta say, thanks.
Okay. Now this one is the second part of the question to all the non-incumbents. What issues will you bring forward on council agenda and why? And we are going to start with Arthur on this one, please. And 1 minute.
There'd be a lot of them, but the first one near and dear to my heart would be the traffic flow in our town. What's going on is very dangerous. You don't even have to be a traffic engineer to know that it's very dangerous. And I have a couple ideas on that. And that's the first thing I bring to the table. And with that, I would bring to the table the idea that the DOT cannot just do whatever they want. When I got upset about the bypass and us not getting our corridor back, even though it was done about 5 years ago, the impression I got from the city officials was it's the DOT. We can't do anything about it. Well, you can. They have a standard and they're not living up to it. And that they need to be brought to bear.
Thank you, Arthur. Next up, Justin Dick. Do you want me to repeat the question for you, Justin?
Yes, if you would, that'd be great.
Yeah, what issues will you bring forward on council agenda and why? And you have 1 minute.
That's a great question. I think something near and dear to my heart that I would love to see get finished, as I've been a part of this since 2017, is the Carousel of Smiles and the placement of that somewhere in the downtown corridor. I think it's an unbelievable asset that's being gifted to the city. We need to find a spot for it. Again, I think it offers one more affordable activity that we could use basically about 12 months out of the year that offers a different perspective other than boat ownership or the expensive cost of winter sports in this community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Justin. Next up, we have Fritz Moore. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay. 1 minute, please.
All right. So again, diversification of the economy. The first thing I would do is stop the giveaway of 25 acres of industrial land. That should have never happened. It shouldn't be on the docket. It needs to be taken off. We're going to work for ways to find crowdfunded innovation where people in the community can use their assets to buy into an economy that they can grow from. We can also do things by embracing things like resiliency. We embrace resiliency by building our food production up to at least 50% of the local economy so that everybody here is fed by local farmers. We can also build independence through different solutions like tech schools, hard skills, and the like. All of those things are not on the docket and they're not being offered. Diversification of this economy is paramount if you want to create wealth now and into the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Fritz. Next up, Luke Ahmed. Do you need the question again?
No, thank you.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
The first item I would like to agendize would be the creation, in accordance with Idaho Code 50-1910, the creation of a local housing authority. And the reason is simple. Cities themselves are not designed to solve housing problems. Housing agencies and housing authorities are. Cities are made up of people. We should be partnering with our sister cities, such as Kootenai, Dover, and Pend Oreille, and especially with our county to address this issue because it affects all of us. And it's something that we can do, is legal, and we have the authority to do, and it has been done in other places. We should delegate this authority so that we can address the needs of our residents. That's one of many things that I believe we can and should do on the council. Thank you.
Jason, you're up. Oh, I'm sorry. We have I think I saw Joel's. Go ahead, Fritz. Okay, 30 seconds, please.
Regionalization is a compartmentalization of power. It creates a greater bureaucracy and less representation. Less representation, like people like Joel and the council will be removed from the discussion, right? The housing authority will make the choices for you because it will be an administrative tool, not a representative power.
Okay, and 30 seconds for Luke.
I'm a government teacher. I'm also a soldier. I have faith. I have faith in my neighbors. I have faith in America. I have faith in the law. This is legal, and we need to do certain things. Government is meant to serve the residents. We put it to the people, and they vote. That's called a constitutional republic.
Joel, you have a rebuttal, the original.
I just want to remind the public that the mayor has put together a House task force. It's not like this issue has not been thought about before or dealt with. We're all very tired of hearing about it because it's a very serious issue. But just to remind you guys, we have a task force. We're working on it. A task force that's made up of community members, business owners, county commissioners, the mayor, other council members. So it's not like we don't know what's going on. So just want to protect our staff, our council members with this particular subject. Thank you.
Okay. And Luke, answer to the rebuttal.
The housing assessment was created in 2019. It's 2021. That's a lot of time. I understand that government moves slow. That's called checks and balances. 2 years to get started. That's not what I call good government.
We had a pandemic. Oh, sorry.
We only do one rebuttal.
Oh, I wasn't rebuttaling. I was just talking.
I know.
Okay. We just signed it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you.
No, I did it wrong. You did.
Counter rebuttal's totally fine.
Re-rebuttals? Yeah.
We don't.
Okay,
Otherwise, we'll
just
be here.
reminded of the pandemic, sorry.
Can I respond, David?
You already had a rebuttal on this question, so I'm going to move on.
Okay.
My bad, Sam.
Okay, Jason Welker is up next. Would you like me to repeat the question? Okay, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. I received a shiny postcard in the mail today advocating and educating me about the local option tax, and there was a frequently asked questions section on that. And the question was, why can't some of this tax go towards workforce housing? The answer was, there's not a plan for workforce housing. 2019, we did have a housing assessment survey, which contains 7 pages of recommended policies and incentives the city could adopt to promote workforce housing. My question is, 2 years later, why don't we have a plan? The second thing, so that's the first thing, bring a plan to the city council for how to incentivize workforce housing. The second thing is our comprehensive plan is now 12 years old. Idaho law requires that it gets updated every 10 years, so we're 2 years overdue. That process was begun and put on hold because of the pandemic. I would request that city staff re-engage the public towards updating our comp plan, which is the visioning document for Sandpoint. I think without a vision for the next 10 or 20 years, we're going to continue down a path of unsustainable development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Go ahead, rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Sustainable development, reauthoring plans, right? I said that already. So, yeah, never mind. I lost this. That's not a good sign.
Counter rebuttal there. Jason, you want an additional 30 seconds?
Yeah, back to the comp plan. This is a really big deal, guys. If you've had a chance to look at it, it's amazing how well it's held up over the last 12 years. But I would argue that the city of Sandpoint has changed as much in the last 2 years as it has in the years from 2008 to 2018. So it's more important now than ever that we re-engage the public through that visioning process to make a new comp plan for the next 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Ben, am I able to say anything? Or my time?
If you'd like to rebut. So the way the rebuttals work is if you want to rebut a specific point of something that your opponent said,
Okay.
that's what a rebuttal's for. It's not to get an additional point that you want to make. So 30 seconds, Joel.
Appreciate it. Want to remind the public again, we had a pandemic. If we would have done the comprehensive plan 2 years ago, with the amount of growth we've experienced, double-digit growth this past 2 years, we probably would have had to do the comprehensive plan over again. So it's something, again, the council is looking into. We're going to do it. It just takes time. Thank you.
Jason, did you want to take another 30 seconds to his rebuttal?
I agree with you.
Okay. All right. Moving on, Mr. Wayne Benner, you're up next. Would you like me to repeat the question? Go ahead and unmute your.
Yes, if you would please, because I have rebuttals for several of the comments.
What issue or issues will you bring forward on council agenda and why? And you have a minute for this, please.
Can I have 30 seconds for some rebuttal?
Okay.
Just to.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were raising your hand for rebuttal. Let's start over. And would you like to rebut Jason's point or?
I have to concur with Jason and Luke's points, but I would like to rebut that the city crews do an excellent job of what they are able to do with the funds they have available. And I've watched that in person, and I appreciate the work that they do. Now, the question.
Hold on just a second. Jason, did you want to answer to that 30 seconds? Okay, now to the question. You have 1 minute, Wayne.
Could you repeat the question, please?
You got it. What issue or issues will you bring forward on council agenda and why? And you have 1 minute, please.
Okay, the first one I would bring forward would be to discuss with the council how we deal with electric bikes, scooters, skateboards, and the other electric vehicles that are racing up and down our sidewalks, our streets, and our pedestrian paths, many of which are kids very much underage, don't understand traffic laws, no helmets, and they're going anywhere from 20 to 25 miles an hour, weaving in and out of the traffic. To me, I think we have a very dangerous situation forthcoming if we don't address how we deal with that. I support electric vehicles 100%, but I've watched 2 accidents and they are very concerning to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. All right, that concludes that question, unless we have any more rebuttals. This one moves on to the LPOSD race. I keep forgetting who I started with. I believe I started with Jalen before. Is it you first? Is it right, Jalen? Okay, Gary, you're up first on this one. There's a problem with pornography usage with the Chromebooks in spite of firewalls that don't work and the school can't get a handle on it. Why is the curriculum at Sandpoint High so dependent on unsupervised internet usage? And you have 1 minute, please.
I dispute the fact that we have unsupervised internet usage. we have an information technology team that constantly monitors the software and hardware in our system. We have filters, that block the internet in school. I have heard that the internet, the pornography that kids are accessing, they do it on the bus and they do it on their cell phones. We can't control, how the cell phones connect to the network. We can control how the Chromebooks that are issued by the school district connect to the network when they're in our building. But the cell phones that the kids bring from home, and then when they're out of our building, we can't control that. I don't have a solution to this. If parents don't want their children to access, unfit material on the internet with their phones, I suggest that they either put filters on those phones or take those phones away from the children when they're at school. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Jalen, would you like me to repeat that question for you? Hit your mute button, please.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, good.
I think
1 minute,
you had
please.
muted everybody and then I forgot you muted me. That's all right. So, I think the question was more for the Chromebooks, not for the phones. Obviously, phones, parents should be putting blockers and filters and parental controls on those. Absolutely, I do with my kids. But as far as the Chromebooks, again, to go back to my opening point, getting parents involved and even assessing that, asking parents, surveying parents, do you want Chromebooks? Not just making a unilateral decision because it's available. Do you want the Chromebooks? And giving parents an alternative. And I know there are alternatives, but it's almost like sometimes I've heard from parents that the students that do not want to use the Chromebooks are kind of looked at like kind of the plague, like it's too difficult to not allow you to use Chromebooks. And so I think to get parents more involved would be a good idea. Going back even to the assessing of financial issues, maybe even setting up a parent group that could assess things that maybe could be cut or could be downsized, getting parents more involved in that as well.
Thank you, Jalen. That concludes that question. Moving on, I believe this one was directed toward the Sandpoint City Council race. It didn't specify, but it just seems like it is. So we're going to start with, let's see, we're going to start with Fritz Moore on this next one. Given the frequent turnover in administrative staff and poor employee morale and the impact on service delivery, what would you do to address these issues if elected? And you have 1 minute, please.
Would you repeat that question?
Yeah, given the frequent turnover in administrative staff and poor employee morale and the impact on service delivery, what would you do to address these issues?
That's kind of an incredibly vague question and I'm not certain where it's going. So I'm going to address something else. 51% of the people in this city own their house. 68% of those people are families. So this idea of workforce housing, I'd like to know where that idea comes from and what exactly they're talking about. It's also suggested in the comprehensive plan that the city dwellers want 75% high density housing. What does that mean to you, high density housing? That's a lot of people packed into a small place, right? So if it's not affordable, what does it mean? You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You'll be surveilled. You'll be happy. You'll have no privacy. You'll be happy. So what is it that you want? You want to be taxed out of existence, or do you want affordability? Affordability is going to come with taking a different direction than we're going.
Okay. Next up, we have Luke Ahmed. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you got 1 minute.
I have a lot of experience with personnel, and the easiest way to address this issue is to ask them. Sandpoint Employee Association has a small body. However, there is only one group of people who are very important called the firefighters who are able to negotiate. Some things that have been done, such as at LPO and up in our district, is that when you negotiate certain benefits, that you treat all of the employees within certain conditions equally. But if people are unhappy, you should ask them. It costs us residents a lot of money to have continual churn. We heard Mr. Superger talk about recruitment and retention. My father-in-law was a firefighter starting in 1974. Retention and recruitment matters. Ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Next up, we have Jason Welker. Would you like me to repeat that question? Okay.
So as far as workforce morale, I really don't know much about what's going on at the city in terms of that. I know that the city council doesn't have much authority when it comes to HR issues at the city. What the city council does have authority over is budgeting. So if there's issues with employee pay, that's something that should be discussed in our budgeting meetings. And when we establish budgets for the next years, we got to make sure that we're compensating city employees at a level that allows them and motivates them to do good work and to remain in the city. But again, the retention issue also and the challenges we face in terms of recruiting are, you can't say they're not tied to the housing challenges here. When the median home price is over $450,000 and house prices, the average sales price in the last 2 years has reached $560,000. A city employee making between $50,000 and $80,000 is going to have a really hard time coming here. And somebody earning that in the city is going to have a hard time staying here. So I could see why some city employees might be demotivated by the increasing cost of living and choose to move to more affordable communities.
Thank you very much, Jason. Joel, you're up next on this one. Would you like me to repeat?
Yeah, please.
Given the frequent turnover in administrative staff and poor employee morale and the impact on service delivery, what would you do to address these issues if reelected?
Thank you. As Mr. Walker said, I don't have the day-to-day with employees. I do know that we are doing the best we can with the low staff that we have to make it a happier environment. I have not talked to all the people that have left, so I couldn't tell you why they've left. I do know that the private sector does pay more, and that's something we can look into, and I would encourage staff to look into. But I can promise you with the low staff that we have and the busyness that we have, they are looking into it. We have to also trust our staff that they're doing the best they can to retain employment, and I know we'll hear more of it in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Joel. And next up, we have Wayne Benner. Wayne, would you like me to repeat the question for you?
No, thank you very much. The first thing I would do is I would get together and with every single employee from the top to the bottom and listen to what their concerns are and what their issues are, so that when I'm sitting as a city council member, I would have an understanding of what the employees are looking at. I've been a fire district commissioner and I've been a city administrator, so I know how to talk with and deal with city employees. They're all part of the program and they all need to be part of the decision-making process. So that would be my focus. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. And we have Arthur Beislein up next. You want me to repeat that?
No, I.
1 minute.
I probably have a happy hour from 5 to 6 every day after work. I don't know. You'd have to find out what the problem is. I mean, it depends on why they're leaving. If they're leaving because they find a better job, well, they found a better job. If they're truly unhappy, it sounds like somebody who wrote that question maybe is not too happy, but I mean, all you can do is talk to them and see what's going on.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. And finally, Justin, you're good internet-wise?
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Yes, sir. Given the frequent turnover in administrative staff and the poor employee morale and the impact on service delivery, what would you do to address these issues if elected?
Well, I think this is always going to be a challenge in the public service sector and losing employees to the private sector. I think one thing that we could do is make employee retention, city morale, and the efficiency of service of the business of the council. In doing so, I think we could probably initiate like a citywide independent evaluation of employee morale and structure with some anonymous surveying and bringing to light exit interviews and understanding why folks are leaving and figuring out, as an employer, it's my responsibility to make my business novel enough to keep my employees around. And I think the city should do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. All right, that concludes that question. Moving on to the next, this is directed to the LPOSD. I believe this is you first, Jalen, correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right. How would you fix the school lunch program? And you have 1 minute to respond, please.
Well, I wouldn't cut it, as has been said multiple times on social media and from my opponent. I would not cut it. I think that we need to go back to the household income based system. If students need it, depending on their household income, then yeah, let's do it and let's provide for them. And then if we have free money up on top of that, we just send the free money back because that's fiscally responsible. It's wasteful to take money that for a grant for food that we don't need, and then that food goes to waste. The overall product goes down. I've heard many stories that the actual food that people are getting, the students are getting, is very poor to the point where they're not eating like 40 to 50% of it. So there's a lot that can be done there. I wouldn't cut it. I would say we provide it for the students that need it.
Okay, thank you. And Gary, would you like me to repeat?
No, I got it.
1 minute, please.
School lunch program is a federal program. It's driven by what we call the free and reduced lunch count. Our district qualifies for the school lunch program because we have over 50% of our students whose families are at or below the poverty level. Okay, so this drives two things. Number one, the federal government provides the resources for us to provide food, breakfast, lunch, after-school snacks, dinners. We even put together bags of food in order to not waste it, to send home with needy students on the weekends. The second thing the free and reduced lunch program drives is academic support. We get several $100,000 every year from the federal government that we use to support elementary reading. Elementary reading is so important. You know, if students aren't reading by grade level by age 3, the chances of them recovering are bad. Okay, if we don't spend this money, it can't be reallocated. It goes back, the federal government is very specific on what we spend the monies on. If we don't spend it on what they allocated for, it can't be reallocated within the federal district. It goes back to the federal government.
Can I say something?
Okay, thanks, Gary. Jalen, did you raise your hand for about almost
yeah, just to, yeah, okay. If I could just to mention, Gary proved my point. It does go back to the federal government, and that those federal funds come from our tax dollars. And maybe they could go back and be used for another school district that needs it more than us. And if we don't need that, for all the students, there's many parents that don't want to take advantage of that program. So it needs to be sent back to be fiscally responsible for the waste.
Thank you. Gary, need you one additional 30 seconds.
We're going to lose, if we do that, we're going to lose the most important part of the free and reduced lunch program, and that's the academic support. You know, we put a high priority on elementary school students reading at grade level by age 3. We have a full-time teacher and an aide in every one of our elementary schools that works with students individually and in small groups to help their reading skills. If we didn't have these federal funds, we would lose that. Those students would fall further and further behind, and their chances of recovery would be less and less.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, finished with that question. We just got a couple more, then we're going to roll into the closing statements. This one's directed to Mr. Mayor. Given the many things to earmark the funds for, why parks and sidewalks for this local option tax? You have a minute, please.
Well, that's been a priority for citizens for a long time. We've been hearing citizens throughout the city for years advocating for improving our sidewalk network, and we haven't had a funding mechanism. So through this local option tax, we have a funding mechanism. I hope you approve.
Okay, thank you very much. This may be our last question of the night. Might be able to squeeze one more in. This one's regarding the sewer system, and this is for the city council candidates. And we will start with Wayne. You're going to be starting this one off, sir. Do you feel the city has an adequate plan to upgrade the sewer system to address current inadequacies and future growth? And you have a minute, please.
Yes, I do. I've looked at their plan and I appreciate them, the city choosing to move from the thought of going clear out on Boyer to coming back to the local area where they have the plant. And I think that what they have in plan will satisfy the needs for the city for a number of years into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Wayne. Next up is Arthur. Would you like me to repeat that question?
Yeah.
Do you feel the city has an adequate plan to upgrade the sewer system to address current inadequacies and future growth? And you have a minute.
I'm going to answer this the way I answered this question on the radio show with Justin and Jason, and my campaign manager got really mad at me. I have no idea. I have no idea what the plan is. As far as how would you replace it, if you tell me you got $100 million project, you got a $41 million budget each year that you spend all of, only thing I can think is there's going to be some sort of regional solution to this at some point. If they have a plan in place to do what needs to be done in the short term, I'm sure they have engineers and they've got it figured out.
Okay, thank you very much. Justin, would you like me to repeat that question?
No, that's okay. Yeah, I appreciate this question as well, considering I live about 5 houses down from the wastewater treatment center plant. I've also been the recipient of having my lateral changed 2 times since, 2 times in the last 6 years. I know a lot of my neighbors would like to see this go. We've been kicking the can down the road here for quite a bit. We'd love to see a new facility here. We were under the guise at one point in time that this was going to be moved over to the Boyer property, and we were going to have some sort of a, amphitheater or some kind of community center over here as well too. I have been on the record of stating to sell the Boyer property here at the Baldy property at a surplus and put that money back into the new sewer. I have since worked with the disc golf folks over there. They have been an incredible stewards of the land over there. I think they've done a wonderful job. There's some great opportunities to keep that as a green space as well. But I do feel that the city has a great plan to move forward with this. I'd just like to see it get going here pretty soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Next up, we have Fritz Moore. Do you need me to repeat that? No. Okay, 1 minute, please.
So the plan was developed, I believe, in 2018 to be executed by 2026. It was given 10 years to comply with all of the EPA violations, which it currently stands at about 13 violations, and it is leaking sewage into the watershed. So I ask you, do we have until 2026 to address this problem? Probably not. So we're talking about beautifying parks and putting in sidewalks instead of managing our wastewater plant, which is crucial foundational infrastructure, and it needs to be fixed right now. So is the best operation to lift it and move it to somewhere else or to redesign the plan? Well, that's something to be discussed, because if it's cost effective to move it and it's better to be there, that might be an option. But it needs to be addressed immediately. Right? I don't think there's anything else to say.
Okay. Thank you, Fritz. Next up, Luke. Would you like me to repeat? Are you good?
I'm good.
1 minute.
Our city wastewater treatment plant is doing a good job. It's 60 years old. We are not a Superfund cleanup site. People there are willing to drink some of the discharge after it's done because it's cleaner than the water going into the river. These are facts. Now, we need to upgrade. I have faith in the staff. We also need an engineer and a grant writer because these are important positions. We will comply with the law. We will safeguard our resources because we are Sandpoint humans and we like the environment. We like where we live. And I have faith in our neighbors and our council and our staff to do the right thing because that's what they have done and that's why we live here. Thank you.
Next is Jason Welker. Same question, 1 minute.
Great. I have an idea, a way that we can actually kill three birds with one stone. Justin referred to the Baldy property that was allotted for the new wastewater treatment plant, which was subsequently decided to stay at Lakeview Park. That property does need to be sold. My plan is for the city to take some of the funds from the local option tax, buy that property. A portion of that can be dedicated for workforce housing. We can attract developers to come build on property that the city owns. In exchange for the property, we would get possibly 200 homes for local workers. A portion of the property can be set aside for parks. Our current parks assessment says we need 14 additional acres of parkland. There's plenty of land in that 37-acre property to provide extra space for parks, including the disc golf course, which is currently there. And finally, the money that the city takes from the local option tax to purchase that property could and would go towards wastewater treatment. It can be used to be leveraged to start getting grants to replace our wastewater treatment plant. The budget for that is between $50 and $70 million, which is the same budget for the parks plan. If we can do parks, we can do wastewater. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And finally, same question, Joel.
If you have your hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Was there a rebuttal?
Okay. Thank you. One, where do you get a campaign manager? That's on the meeting. Okay, that's great. Sounds good. I'm talking to you. Okay, if everyone again, I'll talk to you. Again, I encourage all the citizens of Sandpoint to come to city council meetings. First, third Wednesday of every month. We are addressing this issue, this need rather, not an issue. It takes time, it takes money. I'm absolutely confident that staff is going to take care of it, and just be patient. It's hard. The reason I encourage everybody to come to the meeting, did you realize how incredibly difficult staff works, how hard it is for council we can talk about all the things we want to do, but we meet first and third Wednesday of every month. It's 2 days out of the month. It's difficult to get all these needs across when we're being pulled every which way. So I encourage all of you guys to please come and get involved as best you can. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joel. That concludes that question.
This is Wayne. Can I have a rebuttal?
Yes, sir. 30 seconds, please, Wayne.
I'm probably the only candidate that lives across the street from the sewage treatment plant. I'm probably the only candidate that has managed sewage treatment plants for a number of years. And first of all, I think the city is doing an excellent job of managing what they have, as obsolete as it is. And I think that the city, if you listen to the employees, can come up with a good solution that can fit within the constraints that they have in the area that they're working with, that would satisfy the neighbors and the city itself and the future. So I think you need to listen to the city employees to get some information. Thank you.
Okay, Joel, would you like to answer to that? 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It was officially a rebuttal.
You did a good job, Wayne.
Okay, did you have your hand up, Fritz?
I thought he was making a full statement, so I was going to say something.
Okay, we are moving on. This is our last question of the night, and then we're gonna have closing statements, and we're gonna end at exactly 8:30. We've never done it, but we're gonna try. This is for LPOSD, and we're starting with Gary, I believe, on this one. Do you think a camera in every classroom is a good idea, or is a good use of school resources? And you have 1 minute, please.
Absolutely not. Schools are always open to parents. Parents are always welcome to participate. We cherish parents who want to come into the classroom either to observe or to volunteer. But putting a camera in a classroom is a bad idea. Let me tell you why. Because those who abuse the privilege, could take the film from the camera, re-edit it, create sound bites, take things out of context, and discredit the teacher. That's not the intention of education. We need to support our teachers. We need to support our kids. We need to support our families. This is not a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, and Jalen, same question. Do you want me to repeat it?
No.
Okay, and 1 minute, please.
Okay. I'm sure this question is being presented because I said the word monitoring in the classroom of parents. I didn't actually mean like camera monitors, by the way. I meant oversight. So I never once said that I wanted cameras in there. So I agree with my opponent on that. I think it is a bad idea. So to clear that up for all the Facebook lies out there for the future. Anyways, I will just say, no, it's not a good idea. And yeah, I think parents being in the classroom is a better idea, and sitting in there and seeing and hearing what the curriculum is. And like, I do believe that a big issue with this is critical race theory is here. Any parent can go look at the curriculum, and in the Ready Gen 1st through 6th grade, there is critical race theory themes all throughout there. And I have examples if anybody cares to ask. I don't have the time here because I'm on a time schedule, but yeah, I would encourage parents to go look at that as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
That concludes the Q&A portion of our evening, and we just have some closing statements from each of the candidates, and we'll have you out the door in about 17 minutes. We're going to start with the Sandpoint City Council, and we are going to give you guys a minute apiece for a closing statement. And I believe, what am I starting with it? Let's start with Jason Welker, and we'll move down the line from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. Thanks for being involved, caring about the city's future. That's why I'm here. I care deeply about our city's future. I want my daughter to be able to grow up here. That's my number one concern, and live here when she's older if she chooses to. Workforce housing is a huge priority for me. You've heard my ideas, just some of them, and prioritizing the update of our comprehensive plan, because it's important that we know what the people of this community value, where the visions are for the future, so that we can revisit city code and make sure that city code reflects those visions and create incentives and partnerships that will help fulfill those visions. We have great plans in this city. We have a multimodal plan, which we want to see fulfilled. I'm a big supporter of that. I want to see our streets and our connectivity improved in this town so that people can get safely from one place to the other. Our parks plan is great. We need more plans. We need a plan for housing so that we can really make sure that this place is livable. Our quality of life depends on it. For that, I ask for your vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
Jason. Joel, next. 1 minute, please.
I do want to thank everybody for being involved, those on Zoom. I'm not a politician. It's exactly what one would say. But I believe that's why I was elected 4 years ago. I'm not a politician. I'm one of you guys. And I believe that you guys know that. And I want to continue to serve the community for 4 more years. I do not have all the answers. These are actually very capable, intelligent human beings. And I'm one of them. But I do not have the answer, all the answers. But one thing I can tell you is that to be on the city council, you have to be a team player. It's not just me making all the decisions. We can come up with all the best ideas in the world, but you still have to convince 3 other council members that your idea is the best. And if you're a prick, they're not going to listen to you. However, if you're a team player, which I believe I am, that works with staff, that works with other council members that I believe I have a good reputation with, I believe we're going to get a lot done. It's going to take time, patience, but I really encourage you to vote for me November 2nd. And if you don't, it's all good. Still like you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Wayne, closing statement. Wayne, you got a minute. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this opportunity to express my views and everybody else's views. You know, I'm here to basically support the community. And we have a group of candidates here that are all excellent candidates. I support them all. We all have different views, but we all have one goal in common. That is to help the community move forward. And I hope that whoever you elect coming this November 2nd, you choose those that can do the best job in helping move the county forward, or excuse me, the city forward. Many of them are my friends, and I will continue to be friends with them. And we all have good ideas, good thoughts, and I hope that they all stay involved within the community no matter what happens at the end of the election. And I hope to be one of those people on the city council that can lend my expertise and my education and experience for the future of the city. Thank you very much, and vote November 4th or 2nd, excuse me.
Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, November 2nd is election day. Appreciate that, Wayne. Next up, we have Arthur Beislein. 1 minute, please, closing statement.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Why would you vote for me? Well, because you get a free lawyer if you want them. We don't shut that off. It's part of what we do. I've litigated with cities, with the feds, with counties, with every kind of governmental agency you could ever imagine. And I think it gives me a unique perspective to help make sure that the city is being reasonable when they're dealing with people who are trying to just, develop their property, do what they need to do. And I promise you I will be available. I mean, I will hold to this promise. At least twice a month, I'll have office hours where you can just come sit down, set an appointment. If you have any other questions for me, I have a email, beisline4counsel@gmail.com. We check it. I'll respond to it. I do a radio show. I'm doing this because I want to give back. I think I have something to offer. And my own cousin is playing me off the stage right now, so I'll be.
Brutal. Okay, and Justin Dick, you're up next. You have a 1 minute closing statement, please.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the time. I also appreciate all the other candidates. It takes a wonderful person to take this step here, this big leap, and serve this great community. I love this community. I never looked back after we left Colorado. I think I've been a great steward of this community, both as a small business owner, as a resident, as well as my work in the nonprofit sector. I've had the pleasure of serving thousands upon thousands of new residents, as well as our longtime residents and community members. I bring no political agenda into this, as I realize that I'm just one of 6 votes that's operating a $40 million full service city. I'd love to steer this community into the future, and I believe I am the best candidate for the Sandpoint City Council. Please vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Next up, we have Fritz Moore. 1 minute closing statement, please.
Thank you to everyone participating in this tonight. Thank you for having me. As a city councilman, you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Idaho. That is paramount to protect everyone's liberty and right to have property. When you hear from almost everybody, grant, 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 that means federal subsidies, that means federal welfare. If we want a diversified economy and community independence, we need to start practicing what we preach. So the 3 pillars of wasteful spending are, again, sustainable development, regionalization, and public-private partnerships. When you hear those words bandied about, beware. If you don't want to hear those words bandied about, well, you actually get to vote for 3 of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And finally, we have Luke Ahmed. 1 minute closing statement, please.
Thank you for putting up with all of us. And thank you, candidates, for having the courage to run. My hand has been raised for 23 years. 5 presidents, 4 deployments, multiple continents. I'm pretty sure I know about keeping my word. There are local solutions for local problems, and we get the government that we elect. It's also important in our town to recognize not everybody agrees with us. I think they should, but that's not the way it works in a democracy. And our town is awesome. I'm willing to run. I would appreciate your vote. And even if you don't vote for me, which you should, vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give another round of applause for all the Sandpoint City Council candidates. There are 3 votes for Sandpoint residents on the ballot, and also John Darling could not be here tonight. He is an incumbent, and he's on the in the race as well. Before we move on to the final closing statements, we just wanted to thank everybody for showing up and being here, both here on Zoom and on KRFY online and on their 88.5 FM. We really appreciate you all taking your time to participate. So, and thanks to Chris and to Rafe and Stephanie and everything, Jack, wherever he is. We appreciate all the help. Radio man. Oh, and Mike Bauer, absolutely. Mike's our library liaison. He's a good guy. He helped put all this together. And we're gonna have a minute. You want to do a minute closing presentation on the local option tax, and then we'll wind up with the LPOSD.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think what's critical to point out with the local option tax is in the 2015 tax that was approved, the War Memorial Field tax, we promised the voters that we would deliver the grandstands, the new grandstands, a new field. We over-delivered on that promise. We got better parking, new bathroom facilities, new boat launch facility, all on time and under budget. So we've demonstrated that we can administer those tax dollars wisely, and we intend to do that again with this tax. And I hope you support the tax on November 2nd. Thanks.
Okay, and finally, the LPO Lake Pend Oreille School District Zone 2 trustee race. I think I started with Gary last. So Jalen, you're going to be giving closing statements first. And you have a minute, please, whenever you're ready.
Right on. Well, again, I'm running for this position. Like Joel and probably many others there, I'm not a politician, and I have a heart to see the future generation grow, not just in education and wisdom, but also in work ethic, and where they can contribute well to the society and their marriages and to their kids someday. And so that's my goal in running. That's the heart behind it. And I want to get parents involved. Again, just to hammer that home, want to invest in the trades CTE programs at a greater level. And I can promise you two things. One, I will make mistakes. I'm good at that. Most of us are, but I'll make mistakes. But the second thing I promise is that I'll listen to you and I won't lie to you. So I want to make that very clear. I'll listen to you and I won't lie to you. Vote for Jalen Peters on November 2nd, or now. You can vote at the county building early.
Thank you, Jalen. And finally, we have Gary Subiger, LPOSD Zone 2 trustee race.
First of all, I'd like to acknowledge my competitor that he's realized that cameras in classrooms are a bad idea. Parents in classrooms are a good idea. I do not agree with him that kindergarten and school lunch programs are not essential programs. Without school lunch programs in kindergarten, children would not get the nutrition or the academic support they need to succeed, and they would fall further and further behind, both physically and academically. Okay, for my closing statement, I'd like to talk about an educator in our district who I had a conversation with the other night. He said that he's worked in 3 school districts during his career, and the difference between our school district and the other school districts he's worked in is that our teachers care. Our teachers care. They believe that every student can succeed. They believe that every student should have a chance. I believe this exemplifies our community. I believe that our community is proud of our schools, and we want to continue to support them. I'm asking you for your vote and your support for the schools in our district. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, hey, Ben.
Well, we have a first tonight. This is the first time ever we've ended early. Enjoy these extra 5 minutes. Go enjoy your evening. Thank you so much, candidates, for turning out. This is a tough job. Round of applause to all you guys out there. Thank you.
Hold on.